Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Optimized Ecommerce podcast. I'm Tanner Larsson, and today we're joined by another guest from the BGS team, a repeat guest. Actually, this is probably her third or fourth time on here right now, Haley Morgan. Now, Haley's been with us for a really long time, and actually before she started working with BGS, she actually built a seven-figure store in about a 4-month period, did really, really well with that, and was the youngest person ever to join our Black Label Mastermind. And then after that, she kind of found out that she liked the optimization side of things and all that more than really running the store, and kind of wound up working with us, which we're super grateful that she did. But today, we're going to talk about some cool stuff, which actually sounds really boring. It's cool, but boring, okay, when you hear it, because it's called qualitative research. And only people like Haley get excited when you say qualitative research, because she's really the only one who knows what that means, right? But it sounds boring, but I promise you it can lead to really big wins on the back of your store that are not necessarily split test related and stuff like that. You get to really deep dive way down into your customer data and stuff like that, and things you would have never expected to find, you find doing this kind of stuff. Now, we have in multiple podcasts talked about different aspects of qualitative research. We've talked about user testing before. We've talked about surveying your customers and things like that. But Haley's kind of putting it all together in one episode where it will hopefully, tie things together. And then if you want to go deep dive in, say, she talks about user testing, you want to get a whole user testing episode, you can go listen to our user testing episode and really deep dive. And then also everything she's talking about here, we also cover super, super deep in our blog at buildgrowscale.com/blog. There are extensive, really detailed articles covering all the different aspects of qualitative research. So if you really want to go down this rabbit hole and really optimize your site using this kind of stuff, we've got you covered. All right. So Haley, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
All right. So how about we start with you just explaining to the layman, me, what qualitative research means and what it is.
Yeah, so there's two forms of research methods that we kind of utilize, and one is qualitative, and that just means that it's a research method that tells you why or how something is happening. So whereas the quantitative research method would tell you how much of something is happening, so how much this CTA is being clicked, or fill in the blank, any event. This kind of gives you an inside look at the reason it's happening. So. Okay. This CTA is being clicked 1,000 times. What is that reason? Why is that happening? And that is what qualitative research will give you, the why and the how.
Gotcha. So it actually helps back up the data from the quantitative testing. So and tell you why those things are happening at the same time as giving you ideas in the qualitative sense to figure out more things to test on the quantitative side.
Yeah. So when I'm using this research method, I might start. So for my quantitative research, I use, not just me, the team uses Google Analytics. And with that, I might find through event tracking that we'll say the add to cart button is not being clicked very much. And that's why the product page is performing pretty low, or pretty poorly, I should say. Now I might look into forms of qualitative research to tell me why, and to help me hypothesize what to do to fix that issue. So that's how I use qualitative research.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. Mm-hmm. So guys, again, it sounded kind of like geeky, and it is, but it's actually quite a fairly simple, straightforward process to gather this information. It's actually much more geeky on the split test and quantitative side than it really is on the qualitative side. So we're going to stop talking in big words and start talking about how you actually do it, right? So Haley, why don't we go through, you take us through some of the methods that you use for qualitative research and why you use each one.
Yeah, sure. So there are many forms of qualitative research. The ones that I use most often are going to be on-site polls, post-purchase surveys, and user testing. So those three are going to be the most utilized by me. There are many softwares that help you, or that can help you with those three. Particularly, there's I don't even know how many handfuls of user testing softwares. I know there's Try My UI, usertesting.com, usertesting.io, and those are just the ones right off the top of my head. On-site polls. There's, of course, we work with Lucky Orange, which we love. That's been super great for us. And that would also give you session recordings, which are phenomenal, or is a phenomenal tool to use as well, which would also give you scroll heat maps, scroll depth maps, just a whole slew of other forms of qualitative research. But the on-site poll is kind of, for me at least, like the golden nugget of Lucky Orange. So there's that for post-purchase survey emails. Gosh, there's so many things that you can do, particularly just hooking it up to Klaviyo to send out, or whatever your email provider would be, just hooking it up there, and then using like I know in the past we've used Wufoo. You could also use like Google Forms to create the actual survey that you would link to your email service provider. So there's so many things that you can do, but those are the kind of what we do here. So those are going to be the things that I recommend because I know that they work. But yeah, hopefully that answers.
Give an overview of like, we'll give an overview of like each one. Like, so let's start with user testing. Yeah. What is user testing? Just high level.
Yeah, user testing would be like, for example, I'm working with a store or my own store, in the listener's case, my own store, and I go to, we'll use Try My UI because that's what we currently use. I might sign up for Try My UI, buy some of their tokens, or if only 10 is kind of what I would recommend that the user use, and buy 10 tests. Now I have to create a test. So what that means is that I'm creating sort of like this little quiz, and it might say, you know, question number 1, can you explain what this store is, or what it is that the store is offering, I should say. If the person is able to answer and they get it right, then your messaging is pretty clear, or it can be assumed that it is pretty clear, and you can move on from that. If the user is unable to provide, you know, a clear answer to that, then clearly your messaging is, I don't want to say subpar because it sounds so harsh, but subpar is the only word that's coming to my head. So it might be subpar and could use a little bit of work. Your second question might be using the header navigation, navigate to the sale page and add an item worth $30 to your cart. Now, if the navigation is unclear, your filters are unclear, your sort by is unclear, anything like that, the user completing this test is not going to be able to do so. And therefore, you might be able to say, all right, this needs work, and use the points in which they've gotten held up to optimize. So if they're not able to even identify what the header navigation is, it could be that the person just doesn't know what that lingo means, so you might need to revisit the test and change it. Or it could be that your header navigation is just not, you know, obvious that it is that it is the header navigation. So one thing that I do want to highlight is that I often don't really pay attention to what the user is saying, just what the user is doing. So an example of this,
they're recording their screen while they do all these, answer all these questions, right? And talking to you.
Yeah, screen and microphone is being recorded. So an example of this for myself was I was just watching, forgive me, some of the recordings for a clothing brand that I work with right now, and this lady just kept tearing into it. Oh, this isn't really my style. Oh, this is, you know, oh gosh, I hate this, I hate that, I hate this. And I was actually getting kind of like, you know, bummed out listening to this. I'm like, wow, I spent a lot of time doing this. But then as she was saying how much she hated it, I was like, but she's able to use it. You know, she might not be my target demographic. And in fact, I don't necessarily believe that she was. Particularly for this, it was kind of like, you know, more Midwestern women who are 35 plus and follow to some degree a religion, whether it's Christianity or some form of Christianity. And that was kind of their target demographic. I don't believe that she was of that target demographic. So I didn't really hold much weight to the words that she said. When I asked her to do a task, she was able to complete it, and that's all I cared about. So it's really important, because I could have taken that to heart and been like, we have to start from scratch. Everything needs to be redone, and
Correct.
it
Yep.
could have done more harm than good. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, user testing is great, guys, because it allows you to get a fresh set of eyes who've never seen your store before to go through and complete tasks that obviously to you are very easy, but it's because you know the store, and it allows you to see things that you don't normally see because you get kind of banner blindness to it.
Yeah.
And then, okay, so after user testing, one of the other ones is post-purchase, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so why don't you kind of overview that one?
Sorry, I keep jumping ahead. Post-purchase is really awesome because it allows you to survey only those people who have ever bought from you. So you're surveying your actual customer. You know that the people who you are surveying, who you're asking questions of, are your true target demographic, compared to an on-site poll, which just surveys everybody. And just because they've landed on your store doesn't necessarily mean that they are your target demographic. If you're running like Facebook ads, they could have accidentally been looped in there because of somebody tagging them somewhere or something like that, So that's one of the biggest advantages to post-purchase surveys. And in fact, some of the questions that you ask would be a little bit different or phrased a little bit differently. So instead of saying, like on an on-site poll, I might say, what is one thing holding you back from completing a purchase today? Whereas here I would say, what nearly stopped you from buying from us? Because they already know,
Yep.
So, and it's not that this post-purchase survey audience, so the audience that I'm surveying, isn't aware of what nearly stopped them from buying. They've still ran into friction points and things of that nature that that is worth asking. So it's not that, oh, they bought from me, so I should just ignore them, because clearly nothing was wrong for them. You still need to figure out what it was that almost was the hang up for them.
Yep. And you'd be surprised, guys, the kind of answers you get. I mean, they're actually very valuable, because you discover like hangups or disconnects on your site that you would have never ever thought of if you hadn't taken the time to ask that question. And they are your most valuable source of information because they're the people who actually buy your product.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
something that I got from this that I never would have noticed, because we're so into I shouldn't say we, but sometimes I can get so into optimizing the front end of the store that certain things that shouldn't be negated sometimes just slip my mind. So one thing that came up for an old client that BGS used to work with, that I was the RO for, was shipping. I completely had negated, the shipping process that users were going through. So it just kept coming up over and over and over again. And after some, what is the word I'm looking for? Like a reflection or data, after some research, it was apparent that they had way too many choices. So they actually had a paradox of choice coming into play there. And additionally, there was no clear time frame. So people had no clue when they were going to receive their product. In the age of Amazon, that's just, you can't do that.
Not okay anymore, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So we kind of, filtered out some of those not so popular shipping options, only left the most popular ones. And then, product will arrive in 2 to 3 days, or approximately 2 to 3 days, because, you have to leave a little room for error, unfortunately. But, and the checkout, it actually saw an increase. Now, unfortunately, with Shopify, you can only do those kind of checkout changes like 2 to 3 days, those micro copy things with Plus, I believe now. Sorry, guys, with Plus, but it's worth looking into if you do have Shopify Plus, and then just revisiting those things that you find from those qualitative research methods. Yeah.
Cool. So why don't we kind of dig into a little bit more of some of the wins or big ahas that you've gotten out of the varieties of qualitative research you've got. We've talked about a few different ones so far, but let's talk about a few more.
Yeah, so I'm excited about this question because I already know what I want to say. Something that most people don't take into consideration is your audience. So I'm currently working with one of the BGS clients that we have, which is a clothing brand that I said kind of primarily serves, the Christian woman. Now their audience is diehard, like super diehard. Anything I do, I'm kind of like seeing a draw, and it's incredibly frustrating, So I started running these qualitative research methods. I've done user testing, on-site polls, all these things, and nobody ever has anything to say that's bad about this brand. And that is the biggest aha for me, because like I was getting so frustrated, and I had to sit back and kind of reflect, and I was like, what is this, reason? What is the reason that this is happening, And that was kind of incredibly difficult. So I started to think about it in terms of myself. What is a product that I am so passionate about? And I had to put myself in this hypothetical situation. And it was, so for example, this is my skincare product that I use. This is what I'm passionate about. Now they could message me and say like, what I was asking, what nearly stopped you from buying today? And I could never say anything bad about it, because there's just nothing bad about it to me, So I had to think, what would incentivize me to respond truthfully? Now, this is something that we used to use on, or not used to, but still use, but first used on our post-purchase surveys. And that was incentivizing it. So if we're offering like a $10 coupon for, completing this post-purchase survey, and we see 300 responses in a week, that's phenomenal. Mm-hmm. It should stand true that we should at least test this theory on site as well. So that's exactly what I did. And within a week, again, 300 responses. When I started at like 0, nobody, even if people were responding, they were saying just, fluffy, nice things. Oh, I love the product. I can't wait to buy more, and that's exactly what I would have done with this, skincare product, just amazing things, because it is amazing. To me, I'm that audience. So when you start to incentivize and you're like, hey, for X percentage off, answer this question. And they're like, cool. So then they answer the question. And I started to actually get some really valuable insights back, which were mostly related to sizing. So I found out that their audience tends to be more of the plus size, and they're offering a lot of smaller sizes. And they're just not really sure what to do. Is this small, like a petite small, or is it a plus small? Am I okay to order this small? So we're actually implementing, we have a couple tests in queue right now, but as soon as those are wrapped up, we're going to be implementing fit finders, things little like
wizards,
that.
Right?
Yeah, little wizards. So that way people can, it'll spit out, we recommend this size for you. Based off of the criteria that you have entered, a medium is best suited for you. Excuse me. So, things like that. I hope that's clear, and I didn't just No,
that makes a lot of sense, because a lot of people, not everybody has a diehard audience, but if you do, it can be very frustrating with the research you're getting, and it's something you wouldn't expect. You ask them, what made you almost not buy, and they're like, nothing, and you're like, this isn't helping me. I can't make any decisions on this. And in the case of this store, they're a massive repeat customer base, super loyal, like hyperactive buyers. They buy all their stuff. So, it definitely changes the way you have to go about acquiring that data to get them to not just give you the warm fuzzies, because they're fangirls of the brand, which is great that you have those, but you have to handle the process slightly differently. So that's a great example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What else have you found using this kind of testing?
Yeah, so the best one, I'm going to say that had the best return after implementation was with a children's product that I used to manage the store for. Now this product is like a sweatshirt, and it's reversible, so it turns into a plushie, and then you can put it back inside out and turn it into a toy. Now, after running these surveys, like polls surveys, what came to light was that people have no clue that they're two separate products. They're thinking this store is selling plushies and sweatshirts.
And sweatshirts, yeah. But it's a
They're
2-in-1.
Yeah, and it is a 2-in-1. So simple fix was just having like the product image is the sweatshirt, and then like this little arrow that pointed to like the plushie, and then it's the like little micro copy text in the image says, I forget verbatim what it said, but like 2-in-1. I'm a 2-in-1 plushie, sweatshirt. It said something, and it was very concise and much more eloquent than the words that I'm producing right now. But to that effect, and that was huge. I mean, we saw lifts on product pages, add to carts, proceed to checkouts, completed checkouts. And we made, just anywhere that there was a message about either the plushie or the sweatshirt, we just, combine that and, put that little image there instead. And so everything across the board just saw huge lifts. And it was great. I mean, that was one of the most exciting wins that I had seen because the return from it was so big. Yeah.
And it's so simple because like you've seen the product, you work on the product, intuitively, it's a stuffed animal that you unzip, it turn inside out, and it turns into a sweatshirt of that animal. Like I get it. As soon as you see one, you get it, but then you can't translate that to the fact that a buyer who's never seen it before is going to combine the two images in their own head to make that. So, and guys, this product actually, it's a awesome brand, great product. My kids love them. I mean, this is one we can, they don't mind if we share. So it's called cubcoats.com. It's phenomenal. If you have kids and they're into stuffed animals or like superheroes, they have all kinds of licensing. Highly recommend you go get one of these at cubcoats.com. But we should get an affiliate commission for saying that.
No, I bought one for my niece. So I'm like, and she loved it. She was like, oh my God, Stitch, I can't believe it.
Oh yeah,
and then when
they're awesome.
Turned it inside out, she was like, now I get to wear Stitch. So it was awesome. Yeah.
So like we just they just sent Paxton and Peyton some new Star Wars ones. And so like Paxton has a Chewbacca stuffed animal that he unzips and then he can zip it up. And now his hoodie that he's wearing is Chewbacca. So he's now Chewbacca. And then he's got Darth Vader and a stormtrooper, and we got a lot of them. But anyway, just reminding me when you were talking about that test, another thing that they found through qualitative research was their best-selling, two things. They found their best-selling convertible stuffy out of ever, which was a unicorn. Yeah. And they never had a unicorn. There was not any of the product lineup. And then all of a sudden they found out that the unicorn, people were wanting the unicorn. They rolled out the unicorn, and then that was like their biggest seller on the store, biggest seller on Amazon. All because they started paying attention, to what people were saying through that qualitative research.
Yeah, I remember on the on-site poll, I kept seeing over and over again, unicorn. And I was like, all right, do you guys even sell a unicorn? Is it out of stock? And that's just why it keeps coming up. No, we've never offered it. Well, maybe you should, and so it was cool. Yeah. Yeah.
So that great examples of that. So let's take it to the other side though, because obviously when you got great customers that answer your questions, you have great people, and that's cool. What do you do on the flip side of that though, when you don't get responses to your research methods?
Yeah, so that was kind of what I mentioned a little bit earlier. So what I started to do was, how do I put this? We were, like I said, we were running post-purchase survey emails using an incentive. That was obvious to us for some reason. We were like, yeah, use an incentive. It's obvious. But for some reason on the on-site polls, kind of because of the nature of the on-site poll, right? It's very small, and there's not much room for extra fluff. So we never really implemented an incentive before. So what I decided to do was just try it. You can't hurt. It can't hurt just to try. So what I did was at the very tippy top of the so my whole thing would be black. The thing would be black, and then in bright white letters.
Now this is a pop-up, and you're saying on-site. So just for clarity, so someone who's listening would understand, this is pre-purchase somewhere on one of the pages that you want to ask that question on, probably product page or whatever. And it's a little pop-up that comes up from the bottom of the screen, correct?
Yeah, so it'll show up wherever you decide to place it. With Lucky Orange, you can pick like bottom left, bottom right, doesn't matter, just a spot. Typically people read left to right, so but I have noticed that in this case that pop-ups kind of work better on the right a little bit. I have no clue why I get more responses when they're on the right, but I do. So yeah, so at the very tippy top, I would put, answer the following question for 10% off, or 10% off if you answer this question, this quick question. So if you like really hit home that this is going to be quick, easy, and you get 10% off or 15% off for doing so, people fill it out because they're like, oh, that's a no-brainer, 15% off my order for something quick and easy. And then what I do is I make the subtext the question. And then, obviously in the type box, or if it's a ABCD, type here, the answers would follow, whatever. So I went from having stuff running for a month, which is not the best user experience because users don't like pop-ups, Yep. So I went from having stuff running for a month, getting rejected 15,000 times with 10 responses, to now it's running for a week. I have over 300 responses. Sure, it's been rejected maybe 2,000 times, but I still have, that's a far better ratio than 15,000 to 10. And it's only running for a week, so it's impeding less of my users. It's not causing that much friction. Whereas 15,000 rejections over a month, that's not such great user experience. So I know that I've worked with others in the past, and I've sometimes fallen victim to well, gosh, do I really want to offer 15% off? It is worth it because people come back and they actually complete their purchase. So now you're getting extra purchases that you may not have been able to sway otherwise. You don't necessarily want to condition your users to those coupons, but once in a blue moon to get really valuable insights is totally worth it. So,
and that's a good point. So why don't you talk a little bit about the duration and frequency of doing that kind of stuff? Because like you just said, it's not, you don't want to make it an all the time thing. So how do you do that?
Yeah, so it kind of depends, in all honesty. And I know that answer is like the worst answer ever.
Yep, nobody likes that, but it's true.
It just sort of depends. So if, for example, I just finished one and I implement the changes and I only get, let's say I get one really important or one really big insight from this, and I implement it and it's great. If I have no more insights from that, then I may need to run another one. It doesn't necessarily mean I have to perform the same, qualitative research method. I could implement another one. I could go back to user testing, which would not impede or cause any friction points for my audience. Those are paid users, so that's a little bit different. I could instead, perform or make active a post-purchase survey email, which would, yes, it's still kind of sending your stuff into that purchasers or customer's inbox, but it's not impeding the actual,
purchase
user
flow.
experience, purchase flow of the site. So I would say, it depends because of the amount of insights that are gathered from that research method that you've just implemented. But if it's going to be, more than once a month, like if you're going to start running it twice a week or once every week or every other week, then it may behoove you to start looking into other forms of research methods just to kind of balance it out, so you're not bombarding your customer over and over and over again with pop-ups.
Yeah, and it's the point I want to make sure we get across too is that you don't run these all the time.
No.
It's not necessarily back to back to back. And if you have multiple things you want to test, it's better to space them out a little bit. Also, you don't typically want to run a on-site poll and a post-purchase poll at the same time, because you're just causing more friction. And the idea is still to make money from the store, right? But collect data.
What I've started to do a little bit is, so for example, one trigger that should be implemented for your on-site polls is like after 30 seconds, after 60 seconds. 45 seconds, just so that way the user has enough time to get to the site and relax before they get hit with a ton of stuff. Another sort of criteria that you can use is only new users. So it won't say new users on Lucky Orange's thing. I believe that it says, people who have never visited the site before or people who have never purchased from the store. Unfortunately, if they're from a new IP or they clear their cache or anything like that, it'll still loop them in, but it will do its best at filtering most of those, active old users or anything like that, and only keeping the new ones. So if you were to, run them simultaneously, if you were, we don't recommend it, but if you were, you could implement those filters so that way your existing user or the user who's already purchased only gets the post-purchase survey email, and a good majority of only new users gets the on-site poll. That way there's no, double dipping or anything like that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. So guys, listening to what Haley had to say here, she kind of tied what you've heard in other episodes where we've deep dived into post-purchase surveys or user testing or on-site surveys and all that kind of stuff. We also have talked about mining your customer support desk, right? Your support desk data. All of that is qualitative research, right? And we're taking all of that, like Haley's saying, and you're using it to get different answers about different aspects of the site and things to come up with things that you should test or try. Like in her case with the clothing company, they're having sizing questions. Even though there's sizing charts everywhere, they're very clear. Now we're going to build out wizards and test wizards to see if the fit guide wizard will improve. They wouldn't know that to test that necessarily if they hadn't gotten the questions from the users, right? So this one kind of puts it all together. If you want more information on specific ones like, user testing sounds cool, or I want to learn more about post-purchase, go listen to the podcast episode specifically on that. And so with that in mind, what you need to do right now is make sure that you are subscribed to both iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube, or wherever you listen. But this is a video podcast and a audio podcast. So make sure you're subscribed on at least YouTube and whatever audio platform you listen. If you need links, go to buildgrowscale.com/podcast. And then finally, guys, this podcast is for you. Haley comes on here to share stuff with you guys because she wants to help our audience, our users, our listeners. And in that regard, leave us a comment, leave us a review. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you like about the podcast. Share it with your friends. Help more people learn about this wonderful topic of qualitative research and all the other cool optimization stuff we do here at Build, Grow, Scale. Because again, this podcast is for you guys. It's for the e-commerce world, and we'd like to share it with everybody. So please, give us a hand. Share a link. All right. With that, we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day. See you.
Thank you. Bye.